Hey everyone, welcome back to our July Jira Admins for Beginners. We're going to be doing something a little bit different. I got to close out my other tab so I don't hear an echo. We're going to be doing something a little bit different today. We're going to be talking about Jira Administration, but we're going to focus in on just one of the many, many topics of Jira Administration. So today, instead of going wide, instead of trying to cover workflows and issue types and custom fields and everything that we tried to cover in the past, we're going to hone in on just issue types. So with that said, I'll kick things off here with our presentation, and we're going to quickly get off the presentation and go straight into Jira. So hopefully you all are having a great day today. In the chat, while I'm pulling this up, if you can just let me know where you're tuning in from, that would be great to know. Just curious where in the world everybody's at. But yeah, so Jira Admin for Beginners, what you're going to be learning today, as I mentioned, just one thing. But we're going to learn this thing deep. We're going to learn it well. We're going to know the ins and the outs of issue type. So believe it or not, I feel fairly confident that I got about an hour's worth of material here to be covering just one topic. But we're going to find out. This is like all my videos, totally unscripted. And we hopefully maybe we even have a little bit more time for Q&A from you all. So we'll be jumping into issue types. And before we do, though, a little bit about me. My name is Alex. I'm bachelor's in computer engineering, master's in computer science, systems engineering. I wish I had a master's in computer science. Maybe my career would have been way different. But I do have an ACP 520, and I'm actively working on acquiring one more ACP here very, very soon. I am now officially a published author, and actually, I need to update this QR code here because my book is not on there. So I do have a published book here that I've co-written with a couple of other friends within the Atlassian ecosystem. And so we have a book on DevOps. So feel free to check it out. Again, I will have to update that QR code to include that book, but look up Atlassian DevOps Toolchain on Amazon and you'll be able to find that book. Also, we are here on the Jira Life. So if you haven't subscribed to the channel, make sure you subscribe to the channel. The Jira Life is an up and coming community within the Atlassian ecosystem where we try to really truly build a very unique community within Atlassian. And so if you're new to Atlassian, or even if you're a seasoned veteran, we have everybody. It's a very welcome environment. We live stream every single Thursday. So a little bit later today, we're going to be doing a live stream as well. And we usually have a guest or we always bring you the latest and greatest in what's happening within the Atlassian ecosystem. So if you want somewhere cool to hang out for at least an hour a week, definitely subscribe to this channel and hit that bell notification. I also have about 600 plus videos on my main channel where I teach people how to use Jira. So make sure you subscribe to that other channel as well. All right. Without any further ado, let's just jump into the material here. We're going to cover issue types. We're going to talk about the epics, standard issue types, subtasks, hierarchies. I'm going to debunk the whole thing for you so that you walk away from this training, hopefully having a really, really solid understanding of what an issue type is, how it works, and basically everything you got to know about it. So let's jump into Jira. That's pretty much it. We'll come back maybe in 50 minutes or so to the slides, and we'll come. Yeah, we'll hit that. We'll hit the slides again a little bit later. So issue types. Why there? Why would I want to start with issue types? Well, the first thing is when you're a Jira administrator, specifically in the cloud, this little gear, and I'm going to zoom in a little bit because I realize my screen's a little too small, right? But this little gear up here in the top right corner, this is like your gateway. As a Jira admin, you're hitting this little gear a lot, okay? And a lot of what we do is within this issues subsection, if you will. So when I click into it, you'll notice that Jira automatically takes me to the issue types. So I figured, what better place to start than within issue types, right? And so what is an issue type? Well, an issue type is many, many things, and it's nothing all at the same time. And let me explain what I mean by that. So Jira is an agile-based project management tool. And what that means is that when you buy Jira for the very first time, it's going to ship with certain issue types. Now, these issue types align with Agile. So if you've ever taken an Agile training and you've heard of something like a user story or an epic or a task, or even maybe even a bug, well, then you are probably very familiar with what Atlassian calls an issue type. Issue types are literally just a container for you to track different types of work, right? And so if you're an Agile team and you've ever wanted to write a user story, well, there's an issue type called a story in Jira where you would capture that user story and it's stored inside of a story, right? Similarly, if you wanted to create an epic, there's an issue type in Jira called an epic that allows you to capture those details and put them inside of a container called an epic issue type. Okay. Now, Jira again gives you epic, stories, tasks, bugs, and subtasks. Those are the main five that everybody gets. Jira, though, does allow you to basically create whatever you want, however you want, and you don't have to leverage those out of the box issue types. Okay. And so, if you haven't caught on by now, an issue type is literally just a thing where you capture work. So, think of it, you can generalize it as a task, if you will, right? But it's just work that someone needs to do. But because not all work is created equal, you can categorize the type of work that you're trying to capture. For example, if you are trying to capture problems, right, defects, you can create a defect issue type, or you can use the out of the box bug, right? And so there's a lot of issue types, whether you're capturing positive work like features, enhancements, stories, tasks. And then there's negative, what I'll call negative work, right? We're like bugs, defects, incidents, problems, right? So these are all essentially work that your team's going to work on, but you just want to classify them differently so that your team can essentially work on whatever is important for you and your company to hit your objectives. So that in a nutshell is basically what an issue type is. So with that said, as I mentioned, Jira ships with issue types already, right? So there's nothing you have to do. There's nothing special you have to do. But we wouldn't be Jira admins if we just accepted the out-of-the-box configurations, right? So as a true Jira admin here, we like to configure. We like to change things up. We like to make our lives a little bit harder. But we do it in good faith because companies usually have good business reasons to modify or configure Jira, which is again why we're hired to do this job. So the first thing I'm going to show you is how do we add new issue types? So bringing a new issue type into existence is very, very easy, right? So you click on that gear, you click on issues, and you're going to land on this issue types page. Now, once you're here, the first thing I would do before you create a new issue type is double check that that issue type doesn't already exist, right? Because it's too common that somebody has this, they think that they have a unique, brand new idea, but Atlassian does ship Jira with more than those 5 issue types that we covered. So just double check that your issue type, the one that you're particularly interested in, doesn't already exist. Because the last thing you want to do is have issue types that are very close, right? Because if you have like an issue type called story and stories, like singular and plural, Jira is going to allow you, it won't allow you to have 2 issue types with the same name. That's going to be a big no-no. But if you have similar issue types, that's totally allowable. But it could be very confusing for not only you, other Jira admins, and then ultimately your end user. So I like to start off with like, hey, let's add a spike. So I'm going to check to make sure I don't have a spike. Or I'll even do a couple of letters just to make sure that nothing's popping up in case we have this singular plural thing. But as you can see, I don't have a spike. So this is good. So I got the green light to actually proceed with making a new issue type. So how do we do it? How do we add a new issue type? Well, we can come over here to this big blue button, click on that, and I'm just going to give it the name spike. Now, a spike is an agile term, right? So it's designed to capture a specific type of work. In this case, spikes are really, really good for these research activities, right? So when you're planning your sprints, when your team is working in an agile way, sometimes you don't know everything, right? Sometimes your team doesn't have all the necessary information to meet the qualifications of what we call definition of ready, right? And so sometimes you got to go like a little side quest to go kind of figure life out before you come back to the main mission. And this is where spikes really help us out. So rather than convolute the or just contaminate the story and the value of what a story represents, we can create this side quest spike so that our team can create spikes and then track those as well. Okay, so I gave it a name. Description, this is going to be whatever you want, but like R&D activities, right? Whatever you want to put in there, you can put. And then you're met with the type. This is very important. We're going to cover this more in a second, or at least within the bounds of this training. But most of the time, I would say like 99% of the time, you're going to select standard issue type. Very rarely will you select subtask. And really, my criteria, the criteria that I have is if you want an issue type to exist as as a standalone item, you just want to be able to hit the create button up here and actually be able to create that issue type, then your only option is to make it a standard issue type. If your requirement is, hey, this issue type, this issue that we're trying to capture, always has to be linked with something else, like the story or the bug, right? I like to do risk as a subtask because risks, in my opinion, should be tied to whatever caused the risk. So maybe the story or the issue type that caused it, right? And so when we're doing that, the subtask will make it so that it never shows up using the create button. So you can never click the create button to create subtasks. You always have to go into like a story and then create that subtask type. So again, it's a little bit more rare. So most of the time we're going to go with standard. If you go with standard, you're going to be just fine most of the time. So standard is usually the way. Do pay attention to these level zeros and level -1. This is going to come back a little bit later. So pay attention for now, but I'll explain what it is in a little bit. But yeah, we're going to click on add and then just double check, right? So we can go in, we can either scroll down, whoops, we can scroll down to the S's somewhere in my S's. Here's my spike. Or if you have a lot of issue types, you can just search for it and it'll bring it up. Okay, so here's the spike that we just made. Now we have a question from Bonnie. I have a team managed project that really needs a company managed project. Is there a way to export workflows to the new project so I don't have to recreate the wheel? That's a great question. I do not think that team managed projects, but Bob and Ronnie, please chime in here if I'm totally wrong. But I do not believe that there is a way to export them out, mainly because there is no configuration for that workflow. Like Jira doesn't have it stored anywhere that's accessible. It's usually inside of that team managed self-contained project. So I would think you have to recreate them. But again, if anybody has any other information, Bob here says not that I know of. So I think you have to recreate. All right, great question though, Bonnie. Great question. All right, so let's continue. So we've created a spike. Okay, we have this issue type. Now what? Well, the next thing that I like to do after I created the issue type is to change the icon. Right? When you create new issue types, and I'm just going to back it up here so you can kind of see the issue types here. Right, but when you create new issue types, and I unfortunately do not have any new custom ones. This is a brand new Jira that I'm using. So I got kicked out, Bob, finally out of the other one that we made back in like January. I finally got kicked out. And so I'm having to use my Q2 one, but I have a feeling we're going to need a Q3 one here real soon before I get kicked out of this one as well. But anyways, you can see that every time that you create a new issue type, it has this gray icon. And if you're not careful, which again, this is really literally just a preference thing, but if you're not careful, every time you create a new issue type, it's going to have the same icon. And believe it or not, your team, like they start to associate the colors of the icon, the type of the icon with the work they're trying to capture. And so if they have too many of the same icon, it can get a little bit confusing because Jira doesn't really give you a clear indicator of like, hey, this is a story, this is a task, this is a bug, right? It doesn't have the names visible in Jira until you hover over the icon. And so if you want to make it a little bit easier in your team, my recommendation is you give them unique or as unique of an icon as you can give them. And so again, for one or two issue types, it's awesome, it's great, and you can leave it alone. But most teams usually have like a dozen, 2 dozen, 3 dozen different custom field or custom issue types. And so leaving that same icon for 36 issue types is going to be a little confusing for your team. So what I like to do, and you have to do this in the order I did, right? You create the new issue type. But the next thing that I like to do is I like to go to that issue type, click on these 3 little dots over here, and edit. And when you edit it, you will see that you can do the issue type avatar. And so here you can select an image and you have quite a few options. I like to do my spike as an exclamation mark, but you do, as you can see here, you can upload. Now be very, very careful here. This is a minuscule little tiny little icon. So if you do go down the upload path, you want to make sure that your icon is tiny. You don't want to put text. You don't want to put like the word spike in it because it's going to be uber hard to read. And so you just want to do something very subtle just like the examples here, right? Very, very simple little icon, because it is just you don't have the real estate to put words. It's the takeaway here. So make sure that when you're doing this, um, that you look at that. So any good sources for custom avatars, says my fellow amigo. So I would say if you Google Jira issue type avatar size, this is pretty critical. I use Canva, but as you can see, they're going to be in the 16 by 16, 24 by 24, 32, 32, or 48 by 48. And so I would take a look at that and make sure that you kind of stay within those sizes, so that it looks right and looks okay in your Jira. Okay, so I've already updated mine. I have my exclamation mark, so all I have to do now is just hit update, and we're good to go. So now when I look up my spike, it shows up here as a spike, right? But yet again, we are not done, because when I look at my issue types, when I'm in this screen here, when I'm in this view, this is the pool. This is the all the available issue types that are available in Jira, but they're not in my project just yet. So I have to put that spike, right? All I've done is I made it an a la carte option, right? I brought it into existence so that now some folks, whoever wants the spike, can, a la carte, just pick it, right? They can just bring it into their project. So how do we do that? How do we get these issue types into our projects? Well, there's two ways. There's two ways to do it. I'm going to show you the way I do it, which I think is the scenic route. I think it's I wouldn't call it the correct way, but it's my favorite way, mainly because I am like Finding Dory here, or Dory from Finding Nemo, and I don't have a really good attention span. Like my short-term memory is like milliseconds. And so I typically forget names of things very, very easily. So because of that symptom that I have, I like to go into the project that I'm trying to modify and go that route. But I am going to show you both ways, so that way you can pick the method that you like more. So the way I like to do this, once the issue type exists, right? Once it's there, I go to project and I go into my project. So I'm going to go to this Jira for beginners. Okay. And once I'm in that project, I'm going to go back to project here. You go to project settings. When you're in project settings, there's an issue section here that I've been doing this for enough time to know that you got to wait a second, because Jira, for some reason, has a lag and then it will refresh. So once you wait 1 or 2 seconds, Jira's going to do its thing. But now you'll be able to expand issues. If you jump straight into it and you do it too quickly, Jira's going to refresh on you and it's going to collapse it again. And you're just going to get mad at yourself. So just give it a second here, Jira. I don't know why they do that, but anyways, you'll expand issues, and then you'll see that we have a section called types. So when I click into that, you will see the issue types that are available for this project. Now, this is not shown in this one because this is just a brand new project. But in a more advanced method, these issue type schemes, which you're going to talk about as method number 2 in a second, these can be shared. Multiple projects can share it. So this is very, very important, because if you don't pay attention, if you're not paying attention, you are going to modify a shared issue type scheme, which has positive or negative consequences depending on how you want to see it. But positive consequences, if you have 5 projects that share the same scheme, then guess what? All 5 projects are going to get that spike. So rather than in a team managed project, if you have 5 projects that want the same issue type, you have to go into all 5 projects and you have to recreate that issue type over and over and over 5 times. But in company managed projects, we have this notion of a scheme that is shareable. And so if we want 5 projects to share the same issue types, we just simply connect their issue type schemes together, and those 5 projects are shared. And so whatever issue types are in one, all 5 will get. And so this is something that, again, it could be good or it could be bad, because let's just say that only one of the 5 projects wants to spike, well, it's all for all or none for all, right? It's you don't get to choose at that point. You have to modify your schemes. But just giving you guys a heads up, right? For right now, the way we're looking at this is easy mode. This is best case scenario where you don't have a shared scheme, but just keep in mind that it does get progressively harder. So, so we have this scheme here. It's just for one project. And I can tell that because it doesn't tell me that it's shared by anybody. And so I'm going to click on actions and I'm going to click on edit issue types. And when I do that, right, it's going to preserve here, right here is where it's telling me again that one project. And so now that I'm here, I can come down, scroll down a little bit, and you're going to see that I have available issue types. Everything in this list on the right is everything that was in that previous screen that we're looking at all the issue types, right? And so this is, again, that pool where you can choose a la carte what you want. And so in this particular case, I'm going to go look for my spike. Atlassian doesn't put these in alphabetical order. I wish they were in alphabetical order. I haven't been able to find, I've been doing this for so many years, and I have not been able to find the pattern that Atlassian uses to just stick them in this list. But if your team has like 100 issue types, you're going to just want to scroll very slowly because there is no method to the madness here. They're not ordered by type. They're not ordered by color. They're not ordered by name. They're not ordered by anything. I think Atlassian just throws them in there and it's like a spray, just like wherever they fall. So just scroll carefully is my advice because, again, the more issue types that you have, the harder it is for you to pinpoint that issue type. So I'm going to grab my spike here and you simply click and hold and you drag to the top. This order doesn't matter too much, but we'll put it in there and now our issue type is made available. You would think a rookie mistake that I make even today is once I do this, Ronnie says that I've always assumed that on the order that they were created. Not quite, because if that was true, Rodney, the spike would have been at the bottom or at the top. But you'll notice that they just randomly stuck it in there somewhere. So I don't think that assumption would be correct. Sean says it's the ID number, of which I don't think we're privy to see unless you like hover over URL. So that might make sense, but it's not a number that you actively see or watch. So again, not very helpful if it is true, Sean. All right, so back to my gotcha. So my gotcha here is when you add the spike, again, because depending on the screen size and depending on the number of custom fields that you have, it might be hard for you to remember. You got to scroll all the way down. Again, this scroll gets infinitely longer the more issue types that you have, right? But you got to scroll all the way down to the bottom and hit that save button. Because if you don't, if you're so like excited and you're like, okay, I did it, and you walk away and you forget to hit that save button, it won't save. And so you're going to have to basically repeat the steps again. So just keep that in mind, that you definitely don't want to get too excited there and you want to make sure it saves. So as you can see, the spike is now available in this project. It's now in here. It's good to go. And you can test this. Now you can do the test by simply clicking the create button up here, hitting the drop down for that project, right? Make sure you're in the right project. But for that project that you just made the change to, you can hit this drop down and you will see that our spike is now available. And so this is essentially the first method, right? This is method number one on how to do this. Now, there's a second method. I think this one's a little bit more advanced. I think it's more advanced, but it's also, I think, easier, right? What I just did required way too many clicks. And so if you're all about that optimized click life, right, then this is probably going to be your preferred method. So what you want to do then is you're going to go to issues and you're going to land again. You always land on issue types, which is again why I started here with these trainings. But you're going to want to come down to issue type schemes. Now, every project has an issue type scheme, right? And so here's the tricky part. You got to find your issue type scheme. And so you can either have it memorized, right? I already forgot. I knew it started with the J. Or you're going to have to go through this list of projects on the right and find your project. So again, both require you to remember something. And again, my memory is just the word. So I'm going to scroll through here and I'm going to find my Jira for beginners and go, okay, here it is. And then here's the scheme, JFB, right? And so assuming that we got this, right, this is the one we want. We can now click on the three dots over here. Click. Ooh, folks, this is where Atlassian makes my life a living hell. Sometimes the edit button does one thing. Sometimes it does a different thing. I wish there was consistencies with this dumb edit button. I am in a live training. I have a 50-50 chance of getting this right. So I'm going to click on associate. I believe associate is what I want, not edit. But in other settings that we're going to be covering throughout the rest of the year, you will see that sometimes you do want to click on edit, sometimes you don't. And again, no consistency there, but we're going to click associate and hope that this is the one I want. So I'll click associate, and it's not. It's not the one I want. This is going to allow you to apply this scheme to a project, and that's not what we want to do. We do not. It's already applied to a project, so that's a little bit more advanced. We don't want to do that. So I want to do edit, and edit does take me to the screen that I wanted to do. Again, I had a 50-50 chance, folks. Sometimes it edits just the name and description. Sometimes it brings you to the screen. You will see again as we progress through these trainings throughout the rest of the year that this edit is like your kryptonite as a Jira admin, because you literally have a 50-50 chance of getting it right, because unless you memorize them, just know what they do. Okay. So anyways, so here we are back, right? So I click the edit button, and here we are back in the screen that we were earlier. And so now I can like bring in like this improvement. And so again, same thing. I got to go down, hit save. And now when I hit the create button, you will see that I have that spike and that improvement in there. So that, my friends, is how we add new issue types to a Jira project. So any questions, again, feel free to drop them. We got Damien here saying home and end buttons are the keyboard, our live server on so many config pages. Yes, they do help you go up and down a lot. So great tip here, Damien. All right, so feel free, again, drop any questions that you may have on those issue types. We're going to go even deeper, right? Like as I mentioned at the beginning of this training, instead of trying to cover a multitude of topics all in one shot, we're going to focus in on just issue types, because there's still a lot happening here, and something I want you to kind of really walk away understanding what is all this stuff I'm looking at. So again, drop those questions. I got a whole team in here monitoring the chat and helping out. So special shout out to King Bob, Robert Wen, and also Rodney Neeson, the Jira guy, they always got my back. So they're in there. So ask your questions away. All right. So what's next? So I'm gonna spend a couple more minutes here under this issue types before we go talk about different types of issue types. Okay. And what I want you to know is I'm going to basically explain to you what are these columns, right? What data are we seeing here? Well, the name's pretty self-explanatory, right? This is the name of that issue type. The scheme over here should be now somewhat pretty self-explanatory, right? Because now you know that the scheme is what puts the issue type into the project. So what this is basically telling me is that this epic exists in these schemes. You don't necessarily know the project that they're in, but through some some exploration, you can click on these and eventually find out the name of the project that they're associated to, right? And so the more you have in here, right, the longer this list is, the more projects that issue type is in there. This is only important if you ever want to delete issue types. Now, deleting is a very taboo word in Jira. I don't like to delete stuff in Jira. And so whenever possible, I try to not delete anything. But if you ever did need to delete something, just know that the bigger this list, the more of an impact that deletion is going to have. And so you want to be very, very careful, right? You don't want to just pull the rug. You don't want to delete a bug, in other words, right? Like you want to be very, very careful there. But anyways, that's what this scheme is. And we all know that the dot over here is this little action menu. So that brings us to this hierarchy level. What is that? Well, this is where Atlassian introduced something fairly, I don't want to say fairly new, but fairly powerful. I'll call it powerful. About 2 years ago, Atlassian was exploring with this concept of allowing you to reorganize the layers of the hierarchy. And what I mean by that is in Jira, right? The way Jira naturally works is we have at the highest level, we have an epic, right? And when you're on Jira free and when you're on Jira standard, the epic is the highest level of issue types that you can create. And what I mean by that is like you can't go higher, right? Like you can't create an issue type above an epic. So the epic is the highest tier. Once you have your epic, the children of that epic are going to be a story, a task, or a bug. And in this case, that spike and that improvement, right? So all 5 of those are what's called the standard issue type. They're level 0. An epic is level 1. As you can see here, level 1 highest. Level 0 is going to be right below it. So anything that's at a level 0 has the ability to be the child of a level 1 item, in this case, an epic. Okay? And then eventually we have a level -1, which is the child of the story, the task, the bug, that improvement, or the spike. And so you can't skip levels. So a level 1 can't have a level -1. A level 5 can't have a level 0, right? And yes, spoilers, we can go up above. We'll talk about that in a second. We can create more levels, right? But the Jira is going to respect this order, right? And so all you need to worry about, if you're on Jira Standard or Jira Free, specifically in the cloud, all you need to worry about is that the epic is at the highest. Everything else is going to be level 0, and then you will occasionally make a level -1 issue type, right? The other thing you need to know is that these level -1s will never, ever, 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 ever show up in the create. So when I hit this create button, they just simply don't show up. So you cannot have any level -1s in here. You can have level 1, level 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. All those levels will show up, but -1 will never show up. And so -1 is preserved just for your subtasks. Okay. Now, before we get into the hard thing, right? Before we get into hierarchies, let me take a step back here, and we're gonna do subtasks, right? So let's explain that -1 item, right? So subtasks, I don't know why Atlassian does this. I'm not 100% sure, but they have their own category, right? And so subtasks behave exactly the way stories do from the UI perspective until they don't. And I'm going to show you what makes them unique in a second here, right? But at the end of the day, an issue type is an issue type. It's that hierarchy that manipulates their behavior a little bit, right? But creating a subtask is possible from this main screen, right? Remember earlier at the very beginning, we clicked this add issue type. We can create like a risk, right? And here I can set it as a subtask. So I do have the option from the main screen to create subtasks. And as I showed you, when I go to the last page, I will also see the subtask. So that risk, if I would have created it, it will show up in this main issue types view. But over here, we do have a dedicated subtasks menu where it's going to show you just your subtasks. So here, when you click on the subtask issue type, you can only create that -1 level. Now, in case you're wondering, can I have a level -2, -3? As of right now, no. I know that a lot of people usually ask, can I get a subtask to have a subtask, like a subtask? Not possible today. So what I usually tell people is you got to shift to the left because you can't create more negative levels, but you can go above 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So I usually tell people you just got to shift your logic over by 1, and then you're good. But again, we'll get into that detail in just a minute. So here we have that add issue type, but it's specific to a subtask. So if I type in risk here, and I'm going to say, well, what are these for here? What's a risk for? Capture bad things before they happen, right? That's my summary of a risk. Capturing bad things before it happens. You'll notice that, again, it's created now. It's in this view. If I go to my issue types over here, and I go to that last page, you're going to see that I have them here. You'll notice that's the same icon, right? So again, talking about, do we have the potential to confuse the user? Yeah, probably. So I like to go back in here, edit, and change my avatar. So my risk is going to be, we'll do that little pulse from the ER here. We'll click update. And now my risk, if I go back to that last page, now it's a little bit different. So that's cool. But now we got to add it to our projects, right? So again, we can go to the issue type scheme, or we can go into the project. In this case, I'm going to go a little pro mode here. I'm just going to scroll down, click on this edit over here. And then I'm going to find the risk. Again, Jira treats it, Jira will tell you in parentheses that this is a subtask. So we'll grab it from here. We just drag and drop, and then we hit save. Okay. So the next thing to do is test it, right? So how do we test it? How do we confirm that the subtask is in our project? Well, it would be foolish to hit the create button, because if you've been paying attention, you'll know that it will not show up here. So how do we test this? How do we check and confirm that that risk is in there? Well, unfortunately, this is a two-step process. So first, we got to go create a story. Actually, let's create an epic first, right? So I'm going to go, this is my powerful epic. And I'm going to hit create. All right. Once I'm in there, I'm going to go into that epic. There's a button that says add a child issue. Okay. If I hit this button, notice that the child issue types are going to be that story, that task, that bug, that spike, and that improvement. So I can create, this is a complicated task. Enter. Okay. When I go into that task, notice that this UI is different. I'm still creating a child, but this is specifically a subtask. So now when I create it or click it, I will be able to see the subtasks. And so here you got to be careful, right? You got to be careful that you got to hit the drop down so you can pick the right one. And here you will see your risk. So now you can say, make presentation or something, right? And then you can hit create. But notice that, okay, hit create. Have a required field. There we go. Okay, so just notice that the epic, you can't skip these levels, right? This is very important. I do have a video. There is technically a hack. There is a way to get subtasks to be associated to an epic, but I wouldn't recommend it. I would just stick to the hierarchy and just know that the epic can have a child, which is a story, task, a bug, anything custom that you make, any level 0. And then any level 0 can have a -1 item, so that subtask as a child of that level 0. So that, my friends, is how we add subtasks into our project. So any questions here? I'm not seeing a whole lot of chatter in the chat, right? I want to use, okay. So I'm not seeing a whole lot of questions. So hopefully I'm either doing a really, really good job explaining everything, or you guys just don't want to hurt my feelings or something, because you ask away, folks. We do have experts here in the room. And so throw your hard questions at us. All right. So that is essentially how the issue types work. We're going to go a little bit harder. Okay. But before we do, very quick disclaimer. Huge disclaimer, actually. What we're about to do only applies for premium and enterprise. Okay. I've been intentionally holding off on this capability here because it does complicate things a little bit. Okay. And I wish this was open and available for everybody, but it's not. Atlassian is paywalling this. And so if you want to do what I'm about to start doing, you have to be on the premium or the enterprise versions of Jira, which fortunately most people are, right? Most people are in that because Atlassian entices you, right? They incentivize you to pay for the expensive stuff. So as such, you're going to get some of the expensive capabilities. So let's talk issue type hierarchy. We're going to get into this a little bit more in detail. So we're going to click on this issue type hierarchy here. And remember everything I was telling you about the epic being the highest, and then those level 0 ones, and then the -1. This is that visual representation. This first level, you can see, is level 1. I don't know why Atlassian doesn't do this, but this has a number 0 in it. And guess what? This one has a number -1 in it. So this is level 1, 0, and -1, which coincide with everything we've been talking about up to this point. Okay. Now, again, premium and enterprise, we can add a level 2, a level 3, or 4, or 5, 6, whatever you want. How do we do that? Well, we have a chicken and egg situation. If I click on this create level, I can do that. I can give it a name. Usually, so a couple more disclaimers. So when we go down this path, of exploration, you don't just want to create levels for the sake of creating levels. Like that would be a little foolish. But there are methods out there like Scaled Agile that do call for these more complex, these increased hierarchies, right? And one of the popular issue types that are out there is the initiative, right? And so an initiative is an easy one to kind of imagine because a lot of companies do they explore initiatives, right? Initiatives is a pretty safe thing. Okay. And so when you go over to your Jira issues over here, you're going to select it. But when I type initiative, if I can never spell initiative, by the way, but when I try to look for it, it's not available, which means this is that chicken and egg situation, right? You have to go before you manipulate your order, before you add more levels, you got to go back and make sure that the issue types are there, right? And so what we're going to do is we're going to create an initiative, and leave it level 0 for now, right? Just there's nothing we can do other than 0 or 1, so leave level 0. When you look it up, initiative, again, it's level 0. It's that ugly gray circle, which I'm going to go change because it presses me. And I'm going to make it a plus, right? Because these initiatives are going to be new ideas, new exciting items that we want. And so now I can go to my issue type hierarchy, and I can create my level, and I can create my initiative. I swear, this is one word I got to learn how to spell better. Initiatives. I can go find it. And now I can put it in, and I can hit save. It's going to apply the changes. And a couple more disclaimers. This is a global change. That means everybody, your entire team that is using this, whatever the URL is up here for your Jira, everybody has to follow this hierarchy. There are no customizable, like one team has one set of hierarchies and another team has another. That doesn't exist. Everybody's bought into this. So you only get one shot, one opportunity here to create a global setting for people. Okay. So keep that in mind that keep that in mind that this is a very hard rule. You can't manipulate that kind of. What you can do, if you so choose to, you can add more issue types, right? So you can, this is, I think, going a little bit harder, but you can add more issue types at that hierarchy level. But I think it adds more confusion. So I like to tell teams, like, just keep the one. It's cleaner, it's better. But just keep in mind that if you wanted to complicate your life, Jira is going to give you the full right to complicate your life, and you'll be able to add extra issue types in parallel here. So yeah, Barney says, having the global is a pain, but do we really need more schemes? Probably not. Issue type hierarchy scheme. That would be something. All right, maybe Atlassian's working on it. So we have this initiative here, right? And so now that we have this in here, and we're not quite done yet, because this initiative, now that it exists, and now that you've added it to the pool, very similar to all the other ones that we've created, you have to go and put it in a project. So I have to go back to my issue type scheme, click on edit, and I have to pull in my initiative right here. So I hit save. And when I go to my projects and I hit the create button, you'll see that it's here, right? And the reason it's here is because Jira is going to show you any level 0, 1, or 2 or higher, right? And I can go back to my issue types, and you'll notice that my initiative, remember earlier I had to go find the initiative, I had to search for it. Well, automatically, because I put it in that level 2 hierarchy, it is now number 2. So now at the top of the list. And so I don't have to go hunting for it anymore. And so the hierarchy is set up correctly. Everything here is now configured for success, right? So now I can go in and hit create. I can go to the initiative here. And I can go, this is my init, hit enter, and I can go view my issue. And now when I click the add an issue button here, the epic is the only child that I can have, right? So I can go, this is my epic. And so this, my friends, is a very powerful thing, because up until very recently, I would say within the last 6 to 9 months, this was impossible. If you wanted to add a child to an initiative, you had to go in reverse. You had to go to the epic and give it the parent. And that was like the only way. It was very backwards. But now, fortunately, Atlassian has finally caught up and standardized this, and we can now have these issue types to be, it will respect that parent-child relationship, and it knows who the parent is based on that hierarchy number. So that hierarchy number is very, very critical, very, very important. Something you just want to make sure you have a solid understanding of how these things work, so that you can add these things in. So that is how we add an initiative issue type and how we manipulate the hierarchy. So a couple of disclaimers, a couple of things that I want you to kind of lessons learned, if you will. Well, number one, obviously, you have to be in premium or enterprise. okay, in order to be able to manipulate that. What I haven't covered, and I probably should, but it's a little bit more advanced. I think it would be a little bit beyond a beginner's type of thing. But what I haven't covered is you can actually now, if you wanted to, if you felt so compelled, you can rename these things. I can call this my feature. And when I do that, I can have a feature issue type, or I can rename my epic to be a feature, and then I can recreate the epic above it. So you can now do this stuff, right? So we'll save that for a future video. But you can, because of this change, the way this hierarchy works, you can manipulate the order. You can manipulate, you still can't stick something between the story and the subtask. That's not possible. But anything from this level 1 up, now it's fully configurable. About a year ago, Atlassian was still working through this. It was still very painful, very buggy, wasn't working. But I'm fairly confident. I've tested it out enough times to basically say this is not working. You can now use this. I think this is going to be good. Okay, so I'm going to cancel out of here and show you that. Now, some more limitations, right? Some more problems. And this is kind of a teaser for you to come back in August for a future training, right? Yeah, so don't forget, folks, if you have any questions, we have people here to answer. So if anything's going right over your heads, we have experts in the room. Ask your questions, especially since I am getting near the end. So we may actually close this out a little bit earlier if you all don't have questions. So make sure you have questions. Make sure you ask those questions. We have experts. Okay, so one of the things that I want to cover here. So again, I'm doing like I'm doing disclaimers, right? I'm at this point I'm explaining to you the consequences of what we just did. So you'll see that we have this initiative, and you'll notice that when I go into my initiative, the child is an epic, and when I go into the epic, there are no children, right? But I could remember earlier we made this powerful epic, right? So this one's got this task and it's got the subtask. So let's just say I want to associate this epic to that initiative. I want to group them, right? I want my initiative to be a collector of epics, a saga, if you will, right? Well, I can do that by expanding the more fields, finding my parent link, the parent field, and I can then select that initiative. And so when I do that, my initiative will now have 2 epics that are in there, right? And so I can start manipulating this order. But this is not very visual, right? This is a pain in the butt. This is very, I want to say it's complex. I want to say it's overly complex, but it's not intuitive either, right? And so being able to add issue types and link them and visualize the relationship is something that Atlassian has solved for us, and it's called a timeline. And so when you have your board, and for some reason my board wasn't showing, so this page is only available to Jira users. Uh-oh, this is not good. Wonder why I can't see my board. Oh boy. King Bob, I think I may have gotten kicked out of this one too. Let's see. Can I at least get into my project? Okay, so I can still get into the project. Let me add myself to this project. Again, folks, this is a brand new Jira. I used to have another Jira, but it died. Atlassian, as content creators, gives us free Jiras, but they die. They expire. Maybe expire is a better word than die, right? They expire after some time, and so no, that's still not doing it. So let me check permissions. What do I need from a permissions perspective? Browse any logged in user. Why can I not see my board? Do I not have a Jira license? Well, folks, this is really putting a damper on my thing. Atlassian unalives them, apparently. Well, so I don't know why I'm getting the screen. I've never seen the screen before. But what I was trying to tell you is that, you know what, I see what the problem is here. This is not on the premium. So, Bob, I think we're going to have a little chat after this. I am not convinced that this particular Jira is on the premium version of Jira anymore. So if I go to products, it's probably on standard now. No, it's still premium, but it has an exclamation mark. That can't be good. This Jira subscription is deactivated. So yeah, so Bob, apparently I'm gonna need a Q3 one because my 2 sandboxes that I was using are completely dead now. So unfortunately, I'm gonna have to work around this. I don't have access to a premium one, so I'm just gonna take you to my main one. and kind of finish my thought, and then I'll give you a I'll have to promise you the advanced roadmap before we get into the next training. But when you are in a project, and I'm just gonna move to a project that actually has a board in here. So let's see if this one has a board. Yes. So when we have that hierarchy of the initiative, the epic, the story, and the subtasks, and you go to the timeline, um, when you go to the timeline, it will only show you the epic down. So those initiatives that you had that we had in that other Jira, they will not be displayed. So fortunately and unfortunately, you have to use what's called an advanced roadmap. You need to use a plan. But because this is serendipitous through serendipity, because you have to be on premium anyways to do the initiative anyways, you do have the advanced roadmaps built in, right? You have to be on premium or enterprise. And so if you check out my trainings, or if you come back in August, hopefully I'll have my affairs in order by then. Um, when you go look at that advanced roadmap, that gives you the whole hierarchy. That will give you the end to end. It'll give you the epic or the initiative or whatever you call above the initiative, all the way down to the subtask. So the advanced plan or the advanced roadmap, the jars, which is I'm trying to trademark here, it'll give you the whole hierarchy. Because if you just add initiatives and then you just try to use a timeline here to see the hierarchy, it's gonna change you, because it's not gonna show you the subtasks, and it's not gonna show you those initiatives. So you really, if you're gonna be manipulating your hierarchy and adding those extra issue types, highly recommend you also leverage the power of the advanced roadmap. Which again, fortunately for you all, I have done a training, so I do have these live learnings on how to use the Jira Advanced Roadmap, and we're going to have another session in August. So if you're interested, make sure you sign up for those. But any tip on getting volunteering gigs in Jira? That's an interesting one. I would go the other way around. I would say, I think it'd be easier for you to volunteer at an organization like just a local, like whatever compassion efforts you have around you and your neighborhood, wherever you live, like a church or something. And I would recommend you bring Jira to them, right? And kind of help them organize Jira, because it unlocks a lot of power, right? And maybe if it's not Jira, you can do like something simpler like Trello or Jira Work Management, right? But I think if you're looking for like volunteer activities, rather than trying to do work for other people, right? Trying to become a volunteer Jira admin, you can help companies that you volunteer at, or teams or communities that you volunteer at, introduce them to Jira, and it's going to force you to learn Jira. Additionally, you can use Jira at home. Maybe you're tracking your chores, right? My family, we track our kids, we homeschool them. So we track their kids' homeschooling efforts in Jira. So that will kind of force you to become your own Jira admin. And so there's a couple different ways, right? You don't necessarily have to go find people that want help being a Jira admin, but you can, by your own means, go out there and find people that are lost, and you can help them find the way by introducing Jira to them. Great question, though. Very, very good question. Any other questions then? Otherwise, I'm going to pull up my slide here and just get you to the end, right? So this is the end of the presentation here. And so make sure you scan the QR code. Again, I got to update it today because I got to add my book. But yeah, make sure you follow me on LinkedIn. If you're going to send me a request, I get hundreds of them. And so just tell me that you took my training here so that I at least know that you're not just random people trying to give me jobs. So if you need help, or if you just want to connect, make sure you just drop me a message on LinkedIn and we'll accept it. If you want to take your, yes, my book, I got more people on here, but I'm in a very solo environment. If you want to buy our book, make sure you go on Amazon, Atlassian DevOps Toolchain Cookbook. That's the name, the title. So go Google that. I am going to be updating again this QR code so that it contains that book. But yeah, subscribe to my ATech Tech Tutorials. This is a different channel, not the Jira Life, but go subscribe to that channel. And there I have over 600 videos on how to use Jira, how to do all this stuff. So make sure go check those videos out. They're going to be very beneficial. Subscribe to this channel. Folks, we're trying to monetize. We have 2 playlists with over 30 videos each. We need the last like 200 hours of watch time. So if you can do us a solid, do us a favor, help us get to that 4,000 hours. watch all season 1 and watch all season 2. I guarantee you're gonna love it. Um, uh, Bob and Rodney, who are they're part of my team here. They just bash on me all day. It's good laughs all day long on the Jira Life, and you're also going to learn a lot, right? And we have a lot of guests. We get different opinions. It's an amazing community, and so if you're looking for a place to call home, if you're looking for a place that is very inclusive and just kind of makes you feel very welcome, we have experts and newbies alike. Everybody's welcome. So make sure you subscribe to this channel, and then come back a little bit later today. I do have free courses hosted on Salto. Again, links are in that QR code. So if you want to take your Jira admin skills to a little bit next level, I have completely free courses on there. And then I am working on a few paid courses through Udemy, so make sure you keep an eye out for those. And then a little later in the year, we're going to be doing teachable and instructor-led courses. And then finally, we have a merch store. So if you want to help support the channel here, there's a merch store. And I do believe I also have a membership channel. So if you have questions or you want some one-on-one time with me, in that same QR code, there's a membership, so you can essentially book some time with me. If you just want to help support the channel, we have memberships on this channel, so that you can just, $5 donations a month or whatever. It means the world to us. Or through my links here on Buy Me Coffee if you want to support my other efforts. Memberships all around. So lots and lots of information, lots and lots of ways for you to explore. But we have come to the end, folks. Thank you very much for being in here. We appreciate you taking the time here out of your busy day to come and learn. And hopefully this is beneficial, right? In the past, I go really, really, really fast through a lot of concepts, and I thought this would be a great opportunity to slow down and really go deeper on one specific topic. So you should have everything you need to basically be very, very comfortable with issue types. So come back next month. We're going to talk about workflows, and I'm going to start teaching you why those issue types are so important and how they impact and the rest of Jira. So anyways, thank you all for being here. Appreciate it. I'm going to go do another training. So I got to go get some water, and we'll see you next month. Thanks.